2 Kings chapter 5, verse 1 to 14. Naaman healed of leprosy. Now Naaman was commander of the army of the king of Aram. He was a great man in the sight of his master, and highly regarded because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. He was a valiant soldier, but he had leprosy. Now bands of raiders from Aram had gone out and had taken captive a young girl from Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "If only my master would see the prophet who is in Samaria, he would cure him from his leprosy." Naaman went to his master and told him what the girl from Israel had said. "By all means go," the king of Aram replied. "I will send a letter to the king of Israel." So Naaman left, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. The letter that he took to the king of Israel read with his letter, "I am sending my servant Naaman to you so that you may cure him from his leprosy." As soon as the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his robes and said, "Am I God? Can I kill and bring back to life? Why does this fellow send someone to me to be cured of his leprosy? See how he is trying to pick a quarrel with me." When Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his robes, he sent him this message: "Why have you torn your robes? Have the man come to me, and he will know that there is a prophet in Israel." So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent a messenger to say to him, "Go, wash yourself several times in the Jordan, and your flesh will be restored, and you will be cleansed." But Naaman went away angry and said, "I thought that he would surely come out to me and stand and call the name of the Lord, his God, wave his hand over the spot and cure me from my leprosy. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Couldn't I wash in them and be cleansed?" So he turned and went off in a rage. Naaman's servant went to him and said, "My father, if the prophet had told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then, when he tells you, 'Wash and be cleansed'?" So he went down and dipped himself in the Jordan several times, as the man of God told him, and his flesh was restored and became clean like that of a young boy.
Now this week is special for many reasons. Half term, holidays, hooray! But there are a couple of other things that are special this week. Hands up who can tell me what they are. Valentine's Day, yes. We have Valentine's Day. Yes. Pancake Day, yes. Lent, yeah, it's the start of Lent, which starts after Pancake Day, doesn't it? Yes. And your birthday. Esther, how old are you going to be? 12. When? What day? 21st. Another week yet. Another week. We'll sing happy birthday to you next week, if that's okay. That's okay. All right. Valentine's. Well, I've got a flower here this morning. a single red rose, often is a symbol of Valentine's. And with it being Valentine's this week, I'll just put that there. With it being Valentine's this week, I've got a story. This story is about a chap called John Blanchard. Maybe not the Christian chap that you know, but another John Blanchard, an American. He was in the US Navy just before the Second World War, and he loved books. And he went to a second-hand library, and he would look at books, and he found this one particular book. And it intrigued him. And he opened the book, and there was writings in the margins. And it wasn't necessarily the words of the book that intrigued him, but the writings. And he was so intrigued by this book, he took it home, and actually the previous owner's name was in the front of the book. And he took a while to try and find or make contact with the previous owner. The previous owner was a lady called Miss Hollis Maynell. He was intrigued, and he had to find out who she was. And he took time and effort and located her address. So he wrote to her and invited her to write back. But the next day, he was shipped overseas to war. But she wrote to him. And during the next 18 months, whilst he was away, they wrote to each other. And a romance was building. A romance was building. John asked her to send a photograph. And she refused. He asked again. She refused. And 18 months later, he returned from war. And they tried to meet up. And they arranged to meet up. She lived in New York, so the best place to meet up, Grand Central Station, 7 p.m. That's where they agreed to meet. Because John didn't have a photograph, he said, how am I going to know who you are? She said, I'll be wearing a single red rose. And John said, well, I'll be carrying the book that I had that you wrote in the margin. And at 7 p.m., Grand Central Station, New York, he was ready, waiting, looking for the girl whose heart he loved, but whose face he never knew. And I'll let John Blanchard tell you what happened next in his words. There I was, waiting, looking smart in my best naval dress uniform. A young woman was coming toward me, her figure long and slim. Her blonde hair lay back in curls from her delicate ears. Her eyes were blue as flowers. Her lips and chin had a gentle firmness, and her pale green suit that she was wearing, she was like springtime come alive. I started toward her, entirely forgetting to notice that she was not wearing a red rose. As I moved towards her, a small provocative smile curved her lips. "Going my way, sailor," she murmured. Almost uncontrollably, I made one step closer to her, and then I saw Hollis Maynell. She was standing almost directly behind the girl. A woman, well past 40, she had graying hair tucked under a worn hat. She was more than plump, her thick ankled feet thrust into low-heeled shoes. The girl in the green suit was walking quickly away. I felt as though I was split in two. So keen was my desire to follow her, and yet so deep was my longing for the woman whose spirit had truly companioned me and upheld me whilst at war. And there she stood. Her pale, plump face was gentle and sensible. Her grey eyes had a warm and kindly twinkle. I did not hesitate. My fingers gripped the small, worn, blue leather copy of the book that was to identify me to her. This would not be love, but it would be something precious. Something perhaps even better than love. A friendship for which I had been and must ever be grateful. I squared my shoulders, saluted, and held out the book to the woman. Even though, while I spoke, I felt choked by the bitterness of my disappointment. I'm Lieutenant John Blanchard, and you must be Miss Maynell. I am so glad you could meet me. May I take you to dinner? The woman's face broadened into a tolerant smile. Excuse me. I don't know what this is about, son, she answered. But the young lady in the green suit who just went by, she begged me to wear this rose on my coat. And she said, if you were to ask me out to dinner, I should tell you that she is waiting for you in the restaurant across the street. She said it was some kind of test. What a lovely story. A test, a simple test to show where his heart actually lay. And our Bible reading for today, 2 Kings, we got a slide, James? Ah, there's the rose. Next slide. Naaman. There he is. There is a test. Naaman. Now, I need 6 people to come up and help me here. Who wants to come and help? Come on, up you come. That's 1. I need another 5. Want you to stand up here? That's 2. 3, 4, 5. Anybody else? If not, I'll hold it. Oh, Chloe. Right, Chloe, I want you to stand at this end. There you go. And I'll just let this back me. There we go. Naaman. Now, Naaman was lots of things, okay? Naaman was important. Can you say the word important?
Important.
Remember that word. He was also
Strong.
He was also
Commander.
He was also
Famous.
He was also
Rich.
But he wasn't
Humble.
He was lots of things, right? He had everything he wanted. Except he had a serious problem. He had a disease called leprosy. Now, leprosy was a bad disease, especially in those days. It meant if it was bad, just hang on to that there, and once you're there, you had to go away from people. You were taken out of the city. You had to be away. Now, Naaman, because he was maybe famous and rich and important and all those things, maybe the disease wasn't quite as bad at the start. He wasn't banished yet. But maybe his life would be shortened. And then a servant girl. There's a picture of her up there, just there. Look, the servant girl. We don't know her name, but she was kidnapped. They took her to a different land, to Naaman's land. That was God's plan. God always has a plan. And God wanted to use her. She suggested Naaman go and see the prophet in Judah, in Samaria rather. And she used the word would. Not might, not could, not may, but if you go and see this prophet, he would, with God's strength, heal you. Simple instruction, go. Go and see the prophet. It was a little test. Now, if you 6 want to sit down on the seats all down there for a minute, I want you to hold those things because you'll need to come back in a minute. Who likes puddings? All right, hands down. Who likes puddings but can't cook? Why's your hands gone down? Keep your hands up. Who likes puddings but can't cook? Right. I perhaps need somebody from over here who's got their hand up to come and help me. Come on. One of you. Sam's coming. Come on, Sam. So, Sam, you like puddings.
Yes, I do.
You can't cook.
No, I can't.
I'm sure he can, really, but no, he can't. He can't. He definitely can't. Well, Sam, you like puddings. I've got a pudding. Wait there. Do you like butterscotch?
Yes.
Yes, he does. Okay. I want you to read the instructions.
Okay. Pour 300 mils, approximately a half a pint, chilled, semi-skimmed or whole milk into a bowl. Add the Angel Delight and whisk until light and creamy. Leave to set for 5 minutes before serving.
Simple instructions. Do you think you can cook?
Yes.
Yes. We're going to give it a test. There's your milk. There's about 800 mils there, because I read it wrong on the instructions. But there's enough. There's enough. Part of cooking is you need to measure properly, don't you? Okay, I reckon that's enough. Okay. It's Sam's pudding. He can do what he likes. So off you go, Sam. All right. While Sam is doing that, back to our story. So Naaman went to see the king of Syria, right? But the king of Syria got it wrong. King of Assyria sent Naaman to see the king of Israel, not Elisha, the prophet. I wonder why he did that. The king of Israel also got it wrong, because he thought, I can't heal anyone. It must be a trick. They must be trying to start a war. But Naaman the prophet knew the king. And so Elisha the prophet knew the king. And Elisha heard about what was going on and sent a message to the king and said, invite Naaman to my house. When Naaman arrives, Elisha gives him a test. A simple test. A straightforward test. But Elisha doesn't go himself. He says, one of our servants, go and tell him this is what he should do. So he sent a messenger, go and wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan to be healed. Sounds simple enough, right? Right, where are my people? Come on up. Come on up. Here's a simple test, right? But Naaman was
Strong. Important.
Commander. Rich.
Famous.
but he wasn't.
Humble.
Elisha had not come out to meet Naaman. Naaman thought Elisha would just wave his hand and he would heal him. A hero like Naaman needed a heroic cure. That dirty river, the rivers back home are much cleaner and better and lovely. Why would I want to go and wash in a dirty river like the Jordan? Not right for a man of my stature, because I am.
Strong.
I am.
Important.
I am.
Commander.
I am.
Rich.
I am.
Famous.
But he wasn't.
Humble.
So Naaman went away. Naaman's servants said to him, "You've got to see reason. It's a simple instruction. If Elisha the prophet had asked you to go and do something big, and wouldn't you have done it? Yes. So why not just do this thing? Give it a go." So Naaman had to do one thing. He had to make himself
Humble.
humble. That's a difficult thing for him, because remember, he was
Strong.
and
Important.
Humble.
no, he was a
Commander.
commander, and he was
Rich.
Famous.
And now he was
humble.
Yes. You got it right, Esther, really. Hannah, sorry. Hannah. He was being asked to do something simple, something he would not normally do. He had to trust a slave girl. That's fine. A slave girl, a foreigner, and a prophet he had never met before. It was a test. Would he be humble enough? Would he have faith enough to do it? And when he did, he passed the test. He was completely healed. Not just healed, but his skin was as new and as fresh as a young boy. Amazing. So what can we learn from this? Maybe we're facing tests in our life. We might be willing to try anything. But what if God tells you to do something? Something simple. Would you do it? Maybe you're not facing a problem, but God is asking you to do something. It could be something simple. Something maybe you wouldn't normally do. Something that might be costly, maybe in your time, maybe with financially, maybe with your reputation. Maybe you're not sure if it'll even work. But ask God, is this really what you want me to do, God? God's ways can sometimes be or seem a little crazy. Just think about some of the stories in the Bible. God asked Moses, speak to a rock and water will come out. Hold your staff over the Red Sea, it will part. Jesus said, fill up jars full of water. And he turned them into amazing wine. We may not always understand God's ways, but we must believe his way is better than our own. You might think you're too old. Moses started when he was 80. You might think you're too young. There was a servant girl here. We don't even know her name, but she was faithful to God because God prompted her to tell her mistress about what God can do. A test is sometimes the only way we can know what's in our hearts. Ask yourself, what is it that God is asking from me? Step out in faith, pass the test, and you will see amazing things. Thank you. You may all sit down. And Sam, you can take that home for your lunch.